Okay, guys, on this one we're going to get into the polynomials. Last one we did the monomials. Make sure when you come in class tomorrow that you have all those monomials done, that whole packet. That should be totally complete when you come in. All right, on here, polynomials just means that it can either be a monomial or a sum of monomials. Anytime you see this prefix poly, that means more than one usually. Okay, so a polynomial can be classified according to its terms. Now the terms, if you have a monomial, you just have one term. Okay, and that's what we worked with yesterday. So just one term. If you have more than one term, now what that means is the way you decide if you have more than one term, you look for addition and subtraction separating them. So this subtraction sign separates this into two separate terms. Okay, so 2 is bi, like your bicycle, so that's called a binomial, two terms. Here we have 3 terms separated by addition, 1, 2, 3, and so that's a trinomial, 3 terms. On your polynomial, that can be just however many, 4 or more. Okay, there are special names for 1, 2, and 3, polys 4 or more. Okay, now. Degree of a polynomial. We talked about that the degree of a monomial was what the exponents are. So like the degree of this monomial up here, if I was just doing, no, I won't put equals, but the degree is 5 because that monomial altogether, 2 and 3 add up to 5. Okay? So when we get into the degree of a monomial, so this one up here is the one up there. 2 plus 3 is 5. So since there's only one term, the degree of the whole polynomial would be 5. Okay? Now if you have more than one term, so let's say you have a binomial. Get rid of these marks here, sorry. You have more than one term, so you're going to find the degree of each term. So the degree of just this term, the exponent's 2, so this degree would be 2. Just this term, this degree is 1, because remember if there's not an exponent there, it's a 1. Now, so if we find the degree of each term, so that's why they have 2, 1, because this one's 2 and this one's 1. Now the degree of the polynomial itself is the term with the highest degree. So 2 is bigger than 1, so the degree of the total polynomial is 2. Okay? Do not do 2 plus 1 and say the degree is 2. Okay? All right, if we have 3 terms on a trinomial, the degree here is 2, the degree here would be 1. Now, here we have a constant. If there's no exponent, that's like x to the 0. So that would have a degree of 0. So there's each individual term, and then the highest one is the degree. So since 2 is the highest number, the degree of the whole thing is 2. Okay. Now here we have a polynomial, so we're going to go through. Let's think about it. This is 4 and 1, so this whole thing would be 5. This is 1 and 2, so this whole thing would be 3. This is 1 and 1, so this would be 2. This is a constant, so it's a degree of 0. So then you go back, the highest degree, so there's those numbers, 5, 3, 2, 0. The highest degree is 5. All right. Now, we're going to actually get into some operations here. To simplify polynomials with addition, subtraction, and multiplication, you're going to clear the grouping symbols. Well, what are grouping symbols? Those are parentheses, right? Okay, or brackets. And use your properties of algebra. So normally you'll distribute. Combine like terms. So add your like terms, apples and apples, oranges and oranges. And then any other properties you need to do. If you need to move things around, add them. Okay? All right. So down here, we've got a lot of things going on. We've got a trinomial here, trinomial here. Then we've got to multiply this trinomial by 2. And then we're going to go back and add whatever we got. So order of operations would be to get rid of these parentheses. So here these parentheses are just kind of grouping parentheses. So we really don't need them. So I'm just going to bring everything down. Negative 4x squared minus 3xy plus 5y squared. Okay? Now here, to get rid of the parentheses though, I have to actually multiply by 2. And it's positive 2. So when I multiply, I'm going to get 6x squared. Well, minus 6. Now here's where we need to be careful. Oh no, I'm sorry, just minus 6xy. And then 2 times negative 5 would be minus 10 y squared. Okay? So that got rid of our parentheses there. Now what we're going to do is go back and add up our like terms. Okay? That's actually a y there. So I got an x squared here and an x squared here. So together those two would make negative 4 plus 6 is 2. Now be careful. You just add, when you add subtract, you just deal with coefficients. Leave those exponents alone. So this is still just 2x squared. Okay? To do my, I got an xy here and an xy here. So if I add those two, negative 3 and negative 6, same sign, so I'm going to add them. So that's minus 9xy. Again, don't mess with the exponents. You just add and subtract coefficients, so combining. And the last one, I got a y squared here and a y squared here. So 5y squared minus 10y squared, 5 minus 10 is negative 5y squared. So that would be your final answer. 2x squared minus 9xy minus 5y squared. Okay? All right, on this one, nothing to distribute except for this negative. Now remember, you're subtracting this whole trinomial, not just the first term. So what that makes you have to do is change all of these signs. So when I subtract a negative, that's actually going to become a positive, right? When I subtract a positive, that'll still be minus. And when I subtract a negative, that becomes a positive. So a negative times a negative. Just changing all these signs is all I've done. I haven't changed any numbers or anything else. Now, of course, there's nothing in front of these parentheses, so I'm just going to drop it down. Those are just grouping parentheses, so don't let those confuse you. Okay? And then from there, you're going to combine like terms again. Now, be careful here. There's no coefficient there, so remember you're going to put a 1. So 3 and 1 makes 4x squared. 6xy minus 5xy, 6 minus 5 is 1. So I can put the 1 or I can just put xy. It's the same thing. 1xy or xy. And the last one, I got negative 7y squared and 2y squared. Negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5y squared. Okay? When I go back, when I'm finished, look, see if anything will combine. I'm done. That is my final answer. All right, so in those previous two questions, we were subtracting and adding. But on this one, we're actually multiplying here. I have a monomial and a binomial. So this is kind of like what we've done in the past, where you're just going to distribute. So you just need to be careful here. Do your numbers. 3 times 5 is 15. X times x squared. When you multiply variables, remember that you add the exponents. So 1 plus 2 is 3. Y squared times y, remember there's a 1 there. So y squared plus y, or y squared times y1 would be y cubed. Okay? All right, then we'll start over again. I'm going to multiply this by this now. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. X times x would be 1 plus 1. So that's x squared. And then y squared times y cubed would be 2 plus 3. So that would be y to the 5th. Okay? All right, and you're done. That's it. Now, here we have two things going. We got all of this times all of this. So you have to make sure everything gets multiplied. And there's a special method. Oh, I forgot something. It says up here not only reduce it and simplify it, but it also says classify each answer by its degree and number. So when we got our final number, let's go back and figure out its degree. Well, 3 plus 3, so this whole thing has a degree of 6. Okay? This whole thing, 2 plus 5 is 7. So this has a degree of 7. So this is the bigger one. So it has a degree of 7. And what's the name of that polynomial? Well, how many terms does it have? It has 2. So that makes it a binomial. Okay? All right, we'll do one more of these in the video. Last one. This is two binomials multiplied by each other. And there's a special little method for this called FOIL. F-O-I-L. First times first, outside times outside, inside times inside, last times last. That's what it means. So what that means is this would be your first term. These would be your first terms in the binomial. These would be your outside two terms, inside two terms, last two terms. Okay? So if I do first times first, that's going to be x times x. Well, x times x is x squared. If I do outside, x times negative 3 would be negative 3x. Inside, 8 times x is just positive 8x. And then last times last, 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. So when you're done, we have two terms that are like here. So I do need to go back and combine those. So the x squared will just drop. 8 minus 3 is 5. So this is positive 5x because the 8's positive. And then minus 24. Now, no like terms. So that's my final polynomial I ended up with. So the degree of this is 2. This is 1, this is 0. So the highest degree is 2. So the degree is 2. And how many terms does that have? It has 1, 2, 3 terms. So that would be a trinomial. Okay? Now, I'd like you to go ahead and attempt 5 and 6. Remembering that a square just means that it's that by times itself. So this one you can do by this method up here that we just did. It's just that you'll write it out twice and FOIL it. Okay? We'll work on this more in class. Make sure all of your binomials are done before you come in. Make sure you've tried to attempt 5 and 6 before you come in. Y'all have a good evening.